Florida law, Title 9, Chapter 105.09, prohibits political organizations such as ours from endorsing, supporting, or assisting any candidate in a campaign for election to judicial office. The race is nonpartisan. So after the introduction, when we open the floor to questions, the candidates cannot answer any partisan political questions, okay? So if they decline to answer one of your questions for that reason, so try to keep your questions nonpartisan in nature, please. So our club will not be supporting any judicial candidate. Our forum this evening is simply to help educate the public regarding all 5 candidates. Also, there is only one open seat. All 5 candidates will appear on everyone's primary ballot. If no one gets over 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff in the fall. I will ask each candidate this evening to take 5 minutes to speak and provide information regarding his or her background, qualifications. I will ask each of the candidates this evening to take about 5 minutes to explain a bit about his or her background, qualifications, and motivation for running for judge. Then, the audience and myself as moderator will have 20 minutes to ask questions, remembering they have to be nonpartisan in nature, please. The forum will conclude by each candidate providing closing remarks for up to 2 minutes each. Jane Hefting will be giving the warning when, 1-minute warning when candidates have 1 minute to go. First, I'd like to introduce Ben Boylston, a partner with the law firm of Stewart, Mount, and Boylston, PA, and Bavaries, specializing in criminal defense law. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's a real pleasure. My name is Ben Boylston, and I'm running for Lake County Judge Group 2. There is a 5-minute limit, which is actually a good thing in this case. You give a bunch of attorneys, a microphone and a captive audience and tell them to talk about themselves. You could be here for weeks or more. So it's a real good thing that there is a time limit here, which we do have. We're running for the seat held by Judge Donna Miller. And if you don't know her by name, you may know her as the television show on TV, which you may have seen. I want to start by talking a little bit about what this position is. County judges in our system preside over several different areas of law. One is small claims, one is landlord-tenant. They preside over traffic cases. And for our purposes, they also preside over misdemeanors. In the state of Florida, a misdemeanor is something you can get up to a year in jail on or a $1,000 fine. In Lake County, we have two county judges that are assigned to handle criminal cases and one county judge that's assigned to handle pretty much everything else. Judge Miller is one of those criminal judges who handles criminal cases, and so whoever's elected to replace her would also hear criminal cases. It's a tough job in a lot of ways, because when you are a county judge hearing criminal cases and you're presiding over a trial, objections happen all the time. And when that happens, you have to be prepared immediately to render a ruling that is just and correct and follows the law. You have to know the law cold, you have to know the evidence code cold, you have to know the rules of criminal procedure cold. You have to know it better than anyone else in the courtroom, because if you don't, the attorneys in the courtroom will take advantage of you. And it's so important that you get it right. It's so important that you get it right, because if you don't, catastrophes can happen. Like a guilty person who's a criminal going free when they shouldn't. But perhaps even more tragic, a person who's innocent being convicted. That's why this job is so important, and why it's so important, bottom line, when you hear all of us talk about our experience and qualifications, and you will, all of us are going to talk about our experience and our qualifications. As you listen to those experience and qualifications from all of us, the question you should ask yourself is, does this person have the criminal law background to run that criminal courtroom and preside over criminal trials? In my case, the answer is a resounding yes. This is Florida evidence by Professor Earhart. You can see my copy's all beat up and worn, because I use it all the time. I use it every day in my job. That's one reason. The other reason is that during my spare time for fun, I read this thing. I'm that big of a nerd. But it's something I live and I breathe, and I have my entire career. I know how to use this evidence cover. Just a little bit about my background. Prior to becoming a lawyer, I went to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I grew up here in Lake County. I graduated in 2 years and 4 months from the University of Michigan at the age of 20. I then began at FSU Law School, where I was actually taught by this man, Charles Earhart, who taught me evidence. While I was in law school, I was actually certified by the Supreme Court to work in Monticello as a prosecutor, which is a little town outside of Tallahassee. So I actually prosecuted cases while I was still a law student. After that, I went to work for a local law firm that some of you may be familiar with, Graves and Spivey. In Tavares, it doesn't exist anymore because Mike Graves is now our elected public defender. I now own my own firm in Tavares, Stewart Mountain, Boylston. Very happy, very successful to be doing what I do, but I'm ready to take this next step. This September, I will have been a lawyer for 11 years, and the vast majority of that experience is in criminal law. I've done over 40 criminal jury trials that I have conducted, including one that was a death penalty case, a capital case. I've had a man's life in my hands. I have done literally thousands overall criminal cases, literally thousands. And I've prosecuted and I've defended, so I've been able to see both sides, which is a very important qualification for someone who wants to be a judge. The bottom line is this. I have the experience and the qualifications and the tools to do this job and to do it well and to make sure that justice is served in our community. But that's not enough. It isn't enough. Because you shouldn't just be looking for a qualified judge. You should be looking for a good judge. And those aren't necessarily the same things. What's the difference between a judge who's merely qualified and one who's a good judge? It comes down to philosophy and the approach to the job. What's in your heart? How do you approach the job? In a nutshell, here's my approach. Number one, a good judge should be humble. Because let's face it, there's a lot of power that comes along with this job, and it's very easy for it to go to your head. A good judge always remembers that you're a servant of the people in the law. It's not the other way around. You have to remember that. Number two, a good judge is efficient. You have to move things, keep them moving along. Because I'm a business owner, I know that time is money. And if that's true of me, it's true of everyone else. And number three, a good judge applies the law fairly to everybody. It doesn't matter what their race or sex or religion or political orientation is. It doesn't matter. The law applies to everyone. Everyone is equal under the law. And a great judge, a good judge, has to remember that. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the qualifications, and maybe more importantly, I think I approached the job in the right way. So I very humbly ask for your vote coming up on August 30th and your consideration. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Jonathan Olson, docket manager at the State Attorney's Office in Lake County, where he handles career criminal cases, DUI manslaughter, and life gun cases.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having us here. As she just pointed out, I'm an assistant state attorney. Now, for those of you who've never met me, good for you. If you have met me, it means you're either a defendant or a victim of a crime. So whenever I knock on the door, I expect you're not going to know me. That's tough being a politician now. I'm trying to get my name out the best I can. But if I do knock on the door and they say, I do know you, I kind of get a little leery and back away slowly. When you invited us, I thought, what can I say to these folks to try to get them to vote for me? What is it that I can do? What is it that I can put out there? Because the first question a lot of people ask is, why do you want to be the judge? Well, I don't like those questions. Because it's not about me. And it's not about what I want. It's about you. And all of the people here in Lake County. Because Lake County deserves a qualified judge. And when we look at what Lake County should expect from its county judge, you need to know, of course, what the job is. And as Mr. Boylston talked about, we have 3 county court judges. One doing mainly civil work, 2 doing criminal work, and Judge Miller is one of the criminal lawyers that's retiring. So moving into the criminal bench really allows me to use, honestly, what I have been doing for Lake County as a public servant for the last 12 years. Now, my background actually includes way back on the farm in Minnesota. When we talk about farming, and if you sing, and our amber waves of grain, that was my backyard. I grew up milking cows and baling hay and realizing that was not my life. At a very young age, I wanted to be a lawyer. In 8th grade, I wrote a paper. What do you want to be? I want to be a lawyer. It was not easy. We had no lawyers in our town. I came from a very, 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 very small town of 620 people. But with some hard work and some direction of a few people who guided me, I was able to get into college, get into law school on a Christian school scholarship, and ultimately I became a law clerk right out of law school. That was back in 1995. From there, while in law school, believe it or not, I was actually working for a defense attorney. I was doing defense work at the time. Just like Mr. Wilson said that he was a CLI, which is Certified Legal Assistant, or person who can prosecute. I was actually doing defense work at the time. Became a prosecutor. After being a law clerk for a year, I then moved into what was called a county attorney position. I was an assistant county attorney for many years, which allowed me to do a number of things. Not only was I doing civil work, which is land use, trying to develop zoning ordinance, things like that, but I was also a prosecutor. I also handled DCF cases. Throughout my career in Minnesota, I handled thousands of cases, many of them being trials, hundreds of trials, not only criminal, but civil as well. So my experience is not only just in criminal law, but also in civil law. But for the last 12 years, I've been working mainly with Mr. Brad King. During my time as assistant state attorney, I've gone from misdemeanor to felony, sex crimes, doing drug work, and now I'm one of the docket managers, which means I'm one of the supervisors. Not only of people within the office, but attorneys within the office. I believe I'm the only candidate up here that's ever supervised and currently supervise other attorneys. It's my job to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. I also do arbitration for the Florida Bar. I teach not only trial techniques, but evidence code here locally, statewide, and at the National Advocacy Center in South Carolina. I've been an author. I've been twice published by the Florida Bar, dealing with trial techniques, thank you very much, and different issues dealing with evidence code. Right now, I'm actually, as of today, I picked a jury. I'm in the middle of a trial, maybe a little worn down, and you'll have to I'll have to apologize. I'm in the middle of a DUI manslaughter trial as we speak. I'm ready to take the job on day one, and that's actually my slogan, is I will be ready on day one. It is not a job where you want to learn as you go. For over 20 years I've been doing criminal law. I've had the ability not only to handle tough cases and make strong decisions, but capable of continuing that. So, ladies and gentlemen of Lake County, it's not about me. It's about you. What should you expect? What should you deserve as a judge? Qualified, competent, and the ability to get the job done immediately. As a politician, I'm currently endorsed by Claremont Firefighters, Claremont Police Union, Mount Dora Police Union, and I'm now asking for your vote on August 30th. And I thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Carrie F. Rada, Florida Bar Board Certified criminal trial lawyer and principal in the law firm of Carrie F. Rada, PA and Superiors. Carrie?
Thank you. Hi, how's everyone doing today? Thank you for having me today. I'm Carrie Rada, candidate for Lake County Judge Group 2. I'm running for the seat being vacated by Judge Don Miller at the end of the year. I've been a practicing attorney for going on 22 years now. I accepted a position at the State Attorney's Office in 1995 here in Lake County, and I was assigned to Judge Don Miller's courtroom, one of the first prosecutors permanently assigned to her courtroom. I served in her courtroom for about 2.5, 3 years. I learned a lot from Judge Miller. She inspired me to run for office, and I stand here humbled today, being able to run for the position that she is vacating. After serving with Judge Miller, I was promoted to a felony position at the State Attorney's Office. I stayed at the State Attorney's Office till 2003. I left at that time so I could open my own office in Tavares. I've had a successful practice in Tavares since 2003 to the present, for the past 13 years. 2003, I also sat for and passed the board certification exam. I'm a board-certified criminal trial lawyer. I specialize in trial work. I've specialized in trial work my entire 22 years as an attorney. I've maintained that board certification. I've renewed it on 2 occasions, meeting minimum trial requirements and also meeting peer review. I handle everything from misdemeanors to homicide cases. I've handled hundreds of evidentiary hearings and trials. I also handle appellate work. I filed appeals throughout the state of Florida, in the Florida Supreme Court, and also in the federal courts in the Middle District of Florida and in the 11th Circuit, which is just below the United States Supreme Court. I have been to many jails, state and federal prisons throughout the state of Florida. In 1999, I was with my wife Denise when she passed away from a brain tumor at Florida Hospital. It's a very sad time in my life. We had been together for 13 years. We were high school sweethearts. And it was a very, very difficult time. When I went home that day, there was very little time for mourning. There was very little time for mourning because my 2-year-old son Christian and my 6-week-old son Matthew needed the care and attention that any child their age would require. 4 years later, I adopted my 2 nephews, Christopher, who was 5 years old at the time, and Andrew, who was 3 years old at the time. Currently, Christopher and Christian are on academic scholarship at a university here in the state of Florida. Matthew is going into 12th grade at Eustis High School. Andrew is going into 11th grade at Eustis High School. And I have my youngest, Ethan, he's 12. He's going into 7th grade at Eustis Middle School. I'm remarried, and my wife Brandy and I are blessed to have 5 wonderful children. I'm also blessed to have 2 wonderful parents. My father worked in the construction industry, and he taught me the meaning of a strong work ethic. From when I can remember, for being a young boy, being in middle school, I would go to work with my father. We would frame houses together. We would set trusses, we would hang drywall, we would do roofing, all aspects of residential and commercial construction. I'm grateful that my parents instilled in me a strong work ethic. You know, I haven't pulled a building permit in many years, but I have a valid Florida building contractor's license that I keep current just to remind me of that life lesson that my father taught me. If elected, I would bring to the bench a strong work ethic, the ability to deal with adversity, and 22 years of trial experience. Thank you for your time and attention today.
Next, I would like to introduce Judy A. Stewart, principal of the law firm of Judy A. Stewart, PA, in Tavares, specializing in criminal defense and family law.
Good evening, how are you?
All right.
I'm a little under the weather tonight, so if I'm not speaking loud enough, please just let me know, and I'll try not to have coffee. Start out, why should you vote for me for judge? 1, I'm the only female up here. 2, my name is Judy. Seriously, I've been in Lake County in the legal system since 1988. I've been involved here. I've worked for an attorney for 17 years. I did everything for him except go to court. I went back to school at 33. The attorney I worked for encouraged me to go back to school. I was a single mom, had a 3-year-old daughter, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I talked to some friends who had gone to school, who had gone to law school, took for 10 years, a little overwhelming at 33 with a 3-year-old thinking, you know, how can I do that? I actually did speak with Judge Miller. I was impressed with her about, you know, the fact that she was a school teacher, she became a lawyer, she became a judge. And she says, why are you worried about 10 years? You don't know where you're going to be in 10 years. You don't know where you're going to be in 5 years. Set a goal, reach it, set another goal, reach it. And it gave me a better thought process. Instead of this big, overwhelming 10 years, I broke it down and it took me 11 years to get it done. But looking back, it flew by. And I tell everyone, you're never too old to do that. I remarried. My daughter is now 23 years old and expecting my first grandchild in October. So I'm excited about that. I already got the first onesie bought and it says, dude, your girlfriend keeps checking me out. I'm excited to be a grandmother. I'm running on 3 L's. And what that is legal experience, life experience, and level-headedness. And I think to be a judge, you have to have all 3. You have to be well-rounded. How do you judge other people if you don't yourself understand life? Every one of us up here has legal experience. We need life experience and we need to be level-headed. So those are 3 that I'm running at. My legal experience includes working for this attorney for 17 years. I interned at the public defender's office the last 2 years that I was in law school. I ran Judge Miller's docket during one of those internships, and I won my first trial in front of Judge Miller before I became an attorney as an intern. I've also worked for a family law attorney through a summer internship, and I started my practice in 2009. I've started it single-handedly with 1 printer, 1 computer, and 1 desk. And I've built it to what it is today. So anything is possible if you have goals and you just keep working for it. I've started from the ground up, I really have. I'm proud of what I've done. I've tried to instill that in my daughter and hopefully make a difference. I'm also very active in the community. I like to give back to my community. I live here, I work here, it's important. I help with quadriplegic bowling. I'm on the board for Love Extension. If you're not aware of Love Extension, that is a professional visitation service. They will come and sit with loved ones for free so that you can take a break. They provide depends and insure and other things to people. So anything that I can do to give back. I'm also an advocate for Veterans Court and Drug Court. I'd like to see that here in Lake County. Thankfully, I believe Veterans Court is coming to Lake County. I have a case where I had a client who was, the state attorney's office wanted to put him in prison for 2 years for driving on a suspended license, felony driving on a suspended license. He's 70% disabled with PTSD. Putting him in prison is not the answer. He's the parent of a 3-year-old child, single parent. That's not the right answer for that 3-year-old. So let's get him the help. I was able to successfully convince the judge and the prosecutor, and they were okay with me transferring that case to Marion County. And I went through to see what that Veterans Court treatment program was in Marion County, and I did get his case transferred up there. And he is so far successfully completing that. Promise that he's going to invite me to his graduation. So I'm hoping that that goes well. That's helping him. That's getting him the help that he needs to make himself better, a better parent, and a better citizen. I try to give back. I've been involved in the chambers. I try to give back. I'm currently the small business of the year for both the various and Eustis Chamber of Commerce's. And I want to give back to the community. I think I can continue to do that as well. And in a position as a judge. I don't have a script. I'm trying to just talk to you from my heart and understand that hopefully you'll consider me, and I can count on you for the vote on August 3rd. Thank you.
Last but not least, I'd like to introduce Brian Welke, principal in the Eustis Law Office of Brian Welke, PA, specializing in estate planning, probate, family law, and adoption law. Brian?
Thank you, Deborah. First, thanks for the invitation to be here. It's always good to talk to people who are interested in us running for judge or the judicial race. So I'm 51 years old, and I've spent 36 of those years here in Lake County. And I've left 3 times. I left for the Army, the college, and law school. When I came back from the Army, I brought my wife, Teresa. When I came back from college, I brought my son, Chris. And when I came back from law school, I brought my son, Alex. So every time I've come back to Lake County, I brought a new family member. I told my wife, Teresa, in '97, I ain't leaving again. So we're here for the duration. Although it's not a prerequisite, all of us have trial experience. My trial experience is in the civil area. I've had countless contested hearings and trials over the years in family law, and landlord-tenant, and homeowners associations. Last year I had a trial that We start at 8:30 in the morning, finish at 8:30 at night. Next morning, or the next day of trial is 8:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night. You have to prepare for 29 witnesses, or prepare 29 witnesses for a hearing. So we all have that experience there. In addition, in my area of the law, what Deborah touched on in my adoption practice, it's one of the few areas of law, and civil law, to where when I walked into the courtroom the first time, the opposing party is advised by the judge, you have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford one, one will be appointed to you. I also practice in the estate planning and probate. In the past, I've represented a lot of homeowners associations, landlord-tenant matters, corporate matters. And in my adoption practice, I've participated in placing over 400 children for adoption. And these are anywhere from newborns to teenagers. I've done it for other agencies, for myself, through DCF. And I can tell you, in every case, I believe that child is better off. And that's what my biggest issue is when I deal with these matters. Over the 36 years that I've been here in Lake County, I've spent my time serving and working, volunteering to try and make other people's lives better. My 4 summers of high school, I spent out at Camp Challenge, at Easter Hills Camp in Sorrento, working with the physically and mentally disabled. That was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 8 to 10 weeks a summer. And it has to be a labor of love. I got paid $45 a week each summer. I graduated up to $65 a week. They did feed you though. A year out of high school, I volunteered for the United States Army and served 4 years in Texas, Colorado, and South Korea, where I met my wife in South Korea. She worked for the Army. Since I've been practicing law, I give my time freely helping to the indigent, to the needy, and veterans, and I serve on the board of directors of many nonprofits that serve those same people. I am service-oriented. I also believe that based on my personality and my demeanor and my temperament, that I have what you need that should be conducive to a judge in the courtroom. I've represented over 2,000 clients over the years. Some of these are millionaires, some of these have nothing. They don't know where they're going to sleep that night or where their next meal is coming from when they come to see me. And it doesn't matter what their socioeconomic status is. I treat every one of them the same civility, courtesy, and respect. You know, in the campaign, you talk to many people, and many of them are frustrated. They say, well, we don't know what a judge does. We don't know what to look for in a judge. So if you indulge me here, there are places to find that information. And the Florida Courts, .org, which is the website for the Florida court system, states that the jurisdiction for the county court extends to civil disputes involving $15,000 or less. It also, the majority of non-jury trials in Florida take place before one judge sitting as a judge of the county court, sometimes refers to the People's Court, involves voluminous citizen disputes such as traffic offenses, less serious matters, misdemeanors, and relatively small monetary disputes. In addition, the Florida Bar's website tells you what's the criteria for finding a good judge. A judge must be impartial, fair, and understand the law. All judges may deal with cases that are either civil or criminal in nature. Knowledge in one particular area is not more important to the other than another, and judges should be selected based on their legal abilities, temperament, and commitment to follow the law and decide cases consistent with the judge's duty to uphold the law, regardless of his or her own personal views. Those are objective standards for you to consider when you do this. I'm a candidate because I believe that I can make a difference. And I believe, based on my history, my legal experience, and my temperament, that I can be a good judge, and I ask for your vote in August 30th.
Thank you. Before we open up the floor to questions, I would like a clarification. I'll ask you here for this clarifications. There may be some confusion as to the composition of the cases that are going to go before this court. The approximate percentage of criminal, the approximate percentage of civil. Do you happen to have a great approximate percentage?
My understanding is that Judge Miller has a criminal docket,
Solely.
so she will preside over misdemeanor cases.
Solely criminal.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to start out with a question to ask each one of starting with the last first, Brian Wilkie. Brian, do you think that because this is going to be handling principally criminal matters, that your lack of experience in this area is going to be a detriment, and if not, why?
First of all, absolutely not. I wouldn't be here if I thought that was the case. First of all, I've had many trials, civil trials with Judge Miller in the past. These dockets rotate. Right now, Judge Neal is on a civil docket, and she had zero criminal experience before she was appointed to the bench. And a few years after taking the bench, she handled criminal docket. So to suggest that lack of criminal law background is a disqualifier just isn't true. Right now, we have another judge here, Circuit Court Judge, Judge Cemento. Zero criminal cases. He was appointed to the bench by the governor, and now he handles felony cases that send people away for life. So I wouldn't be here if I thought that lack of criminal experience was an issue.
Judy, you have a thriving law practice now, which started from the ground up. What is your principal motivation for wanting to make the shift to become a judge?
I've always helped people from the public defender's office to my practice that I do now, and I'd like to see, because I've practiced behind as an attorney in that court, I'd like to be able to help people from this level before it gets into circuit court, civil, the felony court. If we can get them help now, and whether it's drug-related or veterans, maybe that stops some of the recidivism. Maybe that keeps some of the people out of jail that really don't need to be in jail because they're already overcrowded. But that doesn't mean that if someone needs to go to jail, I have a problem with putting them in jail, because I don't have a problem with somebody in jail, and there are people that need to go to jail. But let's try to help that, and I think I can do that in this realm. I've sat in Team Court, which is a diversion program, juveniles, and I try to do the same thing there. It's help them. And I'm not nice to them when they're in juvenile court, because I don't want to see them in adult court. I made a pregnant 17-year-old cry, and the clerk's like, well, she's pregnant, and she's crying, and I'm like, oh well, that didn't stop her from stealing. I don't want to be nice because I don't want to see them back. But everybody makes a mistake. Anybody can be arrested for anything. That doesn't make you a bad person. So I think I can do a lot of good on a broader scale as a judge than I can in my sole practice.
You're among candidates who have had experience in criminal defense and also as a prosecutor. What do you think, much instead of judicial temperament, what do you think is your greatest character strength? And what do you think may be your weakness in terms of judicial temperament?
Well, in terms of the greatest strength, I believe I stressed it before, it would be a work ethic. The willingness to, I run my own practice, so I'm at my office 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I work on weekends. I want to give my clients the best possible service, the best possible representation. They put their trust in me. I want to give back to them. So if elected, I will spend as much time, take as much time as required to make sure that the docket runs smoothly. It's a growing docket. When I was a prosecutor in 1995, I was the only prosecutor permanently assigned to Judge Miller's court. There was another floating prosecutor that handled domestic violence cases, but I was the only prosecutor there. Now there are 3 prosecutors assigned to Judge Miller's courtroom. That's how much the dockets have grown. So I would work as diligently and put in as much time and effort as required to make sure that the dockets run efficiently. In terms of a weakness, I really didn't think of one. If I have a weakness, I have a weakness for my children. But in terms of in the courtroom, I really can't think of that.
Jonathan, most of your career you spent as a prosecutor. Do you think the fact that you don't have much experience as a impartial on the bench? Do you think you'll be able to cast aside your inclination as a prosecutor to be totally impartial?
Well, the ability to understand the process really makes this, I guess, a question that lawyers understand better than lay people. Because lay people see a prosecutor and they think, okay, he must be this type of way. But as a supervisor, I've had to make those decisions. Do we go forward, do we not? And that's based on case strength. Knowing what the witness wants, knowing what the victim wants, knowing what our evidence is, and making those decisions. That's not only something that I have to do, but I have to do for other attorneys. Plus, I've had a number of cases as not only as a private attorney, but when I was interning in law school, I had to go to the jails. I had to speak to my clients. Well, they weren't my clients at the time, but assisting in defense, things like that. Plus, I also call on my other background, dealing with DCF issues in the past, being able to resolve the conflict the best way that we can. When you look at what a judge has to do, it's understand the process from both sides. Appreciate not only what the defense attorney is trying to do and what the prosecutor is trying to do, but also to make a decision of which way is best for the community as well as the individual. And so, based on my ability to show that I've done that not only as a supervisor, prosecutor, defense attorney, and arbiter for the Florida bar, I believe that I'll be able to serve the Lake County citizens not only efficiently, but in the temperament that they talk about, and being able to do it fairly.
Ben has the distinction of being the youngest candidate by far. He graduated from law school at 20 and 23 and undergraduate at 20, which is remarkable. But there are going to be some who say, he's too young. What can he know at 35?
There's not going to be some. There are some.
Okay, they're going to be saying, he's just too young. What does he know about life? What do you say to those?
There is no doubt that I'm the youngest candidate. There's no doubt about that. I view that as one of my strongest characteristics that I bring to this race. A young person brings a lot of things that maybe an older person doesn't. Certainly understanding people from another generation. And that's a very important characteristic for a judicial candidate. A sense of energy. This is something that I understand. The opportunities to change your community and impact your community in this world are remarkable. There aren't very many jobs in the entire world, much less in the legal profession, where you can make this kind of outsized difference in your community. And I have a career where I can take that opportunity and I can make something in my own community where I grew up. I love this place. I went to school here. I love it more than anything. So this is a very special opportunity for somebody who is a little bit younger, and I think I bring a lot to the table. I'm not looking to cruise into retirement. I'm not looking for a cushy way to cruise into retirement. I want to attack this job with the energy it deserves, that Lake County deserves, that you deserve. So I do get that comment quite a bit, and I certainly respect where it's coming from. But I think that being young is a great strength, and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm the youngest candidate in this community.
Thank you. Members of the audience have some questions for our candidates?
Yeah, I have. Some of you had a member of the NRA, and is this not a good question? How do you feel about the terrorist situation in Orlando, and you're a member of the NRA? That's not good, Is that a bad question, or?
No, I think it's very.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not a member of the NRA, so if you look at my brochure, it's not going to say that. As far as the actual specifics of my position on the terrorist attacks, I'll let everybody weigh in on that in the way that they see fit. I can tell you that I think the candidates probably preclude us from getting involved in international politics or issues of that nature, because it is fundamentally a political question, how you address that and what the approach to that is. But in terms of the premise of your question, if you're an NRA member, how you look at it, I'm not a member of the NRA.
Give everyone a chance.
I am a member of the NRA. Yes. I'm also a member of the Usus Gun Club. I also love a variety of rights. I'm also a person who was on the board at the Ice House Theater. I'm currently on the boards at in Eustis at the Bay Street Player, which hopefully you come to the show this weekend and you can see me. I've done shows right here. The reason I'm bringing that up is being a member of the NRA, yes, that does describe a little bit about me, but that is not me per se. It is a part of who I am as much as being in the theater is a part of who I am. So if the question is, how does that reflect on my views, so to speak, you know, yes, we're not allowed to say specifically on the political animal that is currently being hunted one group and a time at another. But we as candidates run on our background. There's no question about it. Who we are matters. And
Do you think there should be a ban on assault rifles?
again, we're not allowed to answer that, and I knew where you were going,
Okay.
but we are not allowed to discuss those sort of.
Sorry about
But the reason it's there is just basically so you get to know who I am. And hopefully, those are the questions we want you to come up and ask. And yes, it can be frustrating because we're kind of limited in what we can say, but I'll be happy to tell you I am a member of the NRA.
Okay, I have a question. No,
Okay.
only going down on that. Come on, we got to do better than that.
I feel that based on the political ramifications of the question, I have to abstain from answering. But it was a terrible, terrible tragedy, and I have kept the victims and their families in my prayers.
I think you'll notice it, maybe not on my brochure, but on my information, I am a member of NRA. The reason I'm a member of NRA is because I do believe in the Second Amendment. I am a single, I'm a lone solo practitioner in an office by myself. I represent people who are charged with crimes, not very nice people sometimes, and I represent people through divorces which are highly emotionally charged. So yes, I believe I need to protect myself in being in this office, and I'm sitting back in an office that not right on, it's kind of closed off. It would be very easy for somebody to come in there. So yes, I want to protect myself, and that's why I believe that that's important.
You know, we see in the news all the time with these tragedies that happen around the world where people are killed. And it's hard to imagine that just 30 minutes from here, 49 Americans were killed. And that there's a limit to what we can discuss on that commentary. I own guns. I own many guns. Most of them are historical in nature, but I'm not a member of the NRA.
All right, that's all right. I'll pass right now. Might come back. Okay.
Recently, of course, there's been a case where an 18-year-old man had raped a woman while she was unconscious, and he was given 6 months. I'm just wondering, you might come up with a case like that as a judge. Do you think that was a good judgment on that person's part, and why? Or why not? That would go to everybody.
My first. You know, that's along the line of the nature of something we're prohibited from discussing.
Oh, my bad.
No, I wanted to compliment you on the questions, having the courage to ask the question like that, because sometimes you come to these things and people are very meek and reserved because of the disclaimers on judicial candidates, but that's something we cannot discuss how we would rule on a
My fault, sorry.
I agree.
I have a question for you all. Do you believe that all citizens of Lake County have adequate access to legal help and the legal system here? And if not, what can be done to provide wider and better access, in your opinion? Eric, would you know?
You know, I don't know all the ins and outs of, I know in criminal matters, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. And we do have many services here in Lake County that provide people with legal services on civil matters. I get calls all the time for referrals from Greater Orlando Legal Services. I'll take cases, and there's cases that aren't referred to me that just people come in the door. I more work for free, then hope my wife's here, she's hearing this. I do more work at the office, don't get paid for it, than I probably do. So there's always room for improvement. I tell people all the time, when we have a consultation, and they're on the fence of whether or not to hire an attorney, you do not want to go into a courtroom without an attorney. It doesn't matter what type of matter it is. If it's a simple landlord-tenant, I know sometimes it costs money to hire an attorney, and there aren't services out there, but the last thing you want to do is walk into a courtroom without an attorney.
I'm gonna kind of ditto off of Brian because I do agree that even if they can't afford to hire an attorney, you need to consult with an attorney before you go to court. At least go talk to someone and find out what your rights are and what avenues you have. I think one area that really needs a lot of help in Lake County is help for indigent family matters. There's, as Brian alluded to, there's the public defender office who can't afford an attorney for criminal law, but in daily practice, I see people, and I do pro bono work, I'm limited on what